Hello. Tea break is over. We request that all of us get into the room so that we can continue. Hello. Those who are outside.
Push this button, you go forward. You push this button, you go back.
Take up your seats.
It's easy. So let me take the block out.
I spoke to Abigail. Maybe Abigail is presenting. So John hears it, Abigail and Loveless.
Perfect. Let me bring their.
Hello. I want to believe that that tea break was useful, that we were re-energized and ready to proceed. So I hereby hand over back to Adrian so that you can take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We're back in business. The next section today is we're going to listen to the testimonials from those mentees that in 2019 in Zimbabwe were on the pilot mentorship program. We tried to trace as many as we could after 5 years, but you know, people move on, they change jobs, they even change countries. So we were able to trace for you today from Botswana, Abigail Rakokane, which is an employee of the Botswana Bureau of Standards, BOBS. She is the committee secretary for the National Mirror Committee of COPOLCO. We also been able to sponsor the participation of John Kiatse of Uganda National Bureau of Standards. John manages the National Mirror Committee of UNBS TC 409, which is the consumer policy, and he is responsible for the development and promotion of national and regional and international standards. Last but not least, it's Lovenes Masev from Standards Association of Zimbabwe. Lovenes was not participating in the first mentorship program in 2019, but she kindly accepted to collect the feedback from the mentees and share it with you here today. So I will invite right now the first one, Abigail, to come and speak about her experience as the mentees in 2019. Hello.
Oh, thanks.
You push this one to advance the slides. You push this one in case you want to go back.
Okay.
Just push this one.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to you all. Good morning. Yes, my name is Abigail Rankokwane. I work for the National Standard Body for Botswana, which is Botswana Bureau of Standards. I was privileged to be part of those that were sponsored to attend the COPOLCO meeting that was held in Zimbabwe in 2019. And we got a reach out from COPOLCO through one of their mentors to help us through it all. So I must say, there has not been a lot of activities that has taken place, but I believe what I'm going to share with you today, and also with what has just been shared, there's a lot that we can take home. Initially, we did not have a committee that was dealing with consumer issues, and I believe that was our starting point. We formed a national we formed a national committee, which we sort of, because we wanted to mirror what was happening at COPOLCO, we termed it National COPOLCO, being our Botswana committee. And this committee, it comprised of different government departments, the main department being the Department of Trade and Consumer Affairs. We also had our newly established Consumer Authority, whom we brought in as the regulator, and we had also people from the Non-Bank Financial Institution Regulatory Authority, also from Botswana Communication Regulatory Authority, because we were getting a lot of consumer complaints with regards to mobile phones. And then we had 2 consumer representatives, one termed the Consumer Watch Group, and then the other one is the Consumer Advocacy Group, and I'm with a member from the Consumer Advocacy Group. And then we had one of our institutions also coming in. We realized that we needed membership also from the local government, because we believe they are dealing with a lot of consumers at their different authorities. And unfortunately, we were not able to get representatives from the utilities providers, like the water, the power, and the other mobile network providers. And we also believe that from the academic institutions, we needed representatives from that, because we believe it is high time issues of consumer issues are also sort of placed into the curriculum, so that they can also be taught to students. And then we realized that in our country, consumer representation is really, really poor, if I may say that. We don't have a lot of consumer movement groups. What we did is we realized that, yes, indeed, we don't have a lot of information. And after we have resuscitated this committee, as you are all aware, COVID happened. But what we did within the national standard body, we advised all the committees to ensure that within each technical committee, there is a representative for consumer issues. And then we also reached out to some of the countries that are within our region, like Uganda. They were really helpful to share with us how they are doing things. And we realized that we needed to up our game within the national standard body. And then we were able to, as Botswana, to hold the position of secretariat for the regional ASO Committee on Consumer as well. And then we believe that is where here we had a lot of our TC coordinators participating also at that level. And then, like I've said, Botswana was also nominated to be the secretary for the regional committee that deals with consumer issues. And then within this regional participation, we have 9 working groups where Botswana is well represented, and they have even come up with resuscitating some of the committees where we had a lot of complaints with regards to industrial products like paints, and we were able to resuscitate one of the paint committees so that issues of consumers can also be addressed. And within this committee, we have adopted 16 standards and 2 guidelines. So the consumer issues that were shared within the region and also within the nation were issues that are related to food safety, to child safety, and eco-labeling, product protection as indicated there. And I must say, throughout there have been some challenges. There have been some people who were nominated to represent the National Committee on the National COPOLCO from different government departments and also other organizations who moved from different organizations or different companies, or either they were transferred or they were resigned. But unfortunately, there was no trace of what was happening or replacement for them. That is why I'm saying currently the National COPOLCO committee is more or less dormant. And then the non-availability of consumer representation. I've initially said that we had the consumer watchdog. The consumer watchdog was formed by I would say just an individual who had, who was addressing people's issues through Facebook platform. So when that individual is not active, then it means that group was also not active. We were lucky that the same individual was also part of our standard council, and therefore he was able to advocate also for us to share issues of standardization. And then one thing that we also realize is that as Botswana, we are not very active at consumer international forums like the Consumer International. Our authority is newly formed, and I believe it is still getting on its feet. There is need for them to reach out to Consumer International or vice versa. Another thing is that as we are reaching out to even like utilities companies and even people through our Facebook page. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention is that as the standard body, we took a deliberate decision to engage with consumers through Facebook. What we did is that every Tuesday and every Thursday, we go out to the Facebook and we have a Facebook Live where consumers can also reach out to us. And through it, we have also realized that people have shown interest in joining some of the different committees. If there is a government initiative that is going on, we would tailor-make our topic to support what government is saying. For instance, about 2 weeks back, we had World Safety on Standard. So what we did was to reach out and share with people standards that relate to occupational health and safety. And I believe within that we are also getting a positive response. And we realized that people are complaining of too much technical language that is being used in standardization, and therefore it is repelling their interest. And then the last one was saying unavailability of national TCs to TC members to attend to some of these complaints. What are some of the lessons that we have learned? We believe that intensive stakeholder engagement, both formal and informal, is important. One of the presenters earlier this morning talked about issues where we have to reach out to consumers, especially when we have new work projects. Instead of reaching to them when we now have a finished product and they cannot make a lot of contribution. We believe that is also one way that we can reach out. And then we have identified a number of stakeholders, and even as you are making presentation, I believe I have a number of them that we can also add to those as we try to reach out to engage with stakeholders. Consumer representation in standard development, I cannot overemphasize this because this is one area where, like the presenter who was making a presentation on what Britain is doing, to where they have 50 consumer representatives whom they have trained. I believe that if we can identify those representatives within our country and engage them, we can also reach out to and spread the message of standardization. And we believe that there is also need for us to engage young consumers as product standard influencers through the different consumption patterns, and so that they can influence the use of quality products through social media influence. And the last one, we are saying there is need also to collaborate with other countries that are already ahead. Like in our case, we identified Uganda. We believe Zimbabwe is also doing very well. We can learn a lot from them. What are the outcomes and the impact of the mentorship program? The impact of the mentorship program is that it has helped us within the national standard body to know that we have a role to play to engage consumers, to go out there and identify them at the different industries and lure them so that they can come and participate in standard development and ensure that there is involvement in the different working groups that we have. And then also to say that as they adopt standards, they can also reference that in their regulation. One example is that the standard under child safety, we are currently in talks with the local authorities because they are the ones who are regulating daycare centers and creches, so that these standards can also be included under their regulation. And then the last one is just to talk about increase in collaboration with other national standard bodies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Abigail. Any question for Ms. Abigail from Botswana? Or maybe we can hear it at the end of the session with other two more participants.
Hi, I'm Ben Russell here from Australia. Thank you for that presentation. You mentioned one of the things that you do is Facebook Lives to reach out to people. Now, I know back home, if I went on Facebook Live and wanted to talk about standards, I wouldn't be able to get that many people probably to care. I was just curious, what sort of numbers do you get on those Facebook Lives, and what sort of things are you talking about to get people to care?
Okay. Like I said, we do have our Facebook Lives every Tuesday and every Thursdays. It's a 30-minute program, if I may say that. What we have done is that we identify issues that are of concern to consumers, and then we go and talk to them about standards that we believe they can help them resolve those issues. And we also invite them at the same time to say, you can participate in standard development not only at the end to get quality products, but also at the beginning, because we want them to also form part of the national technical committees as well. So that's one area that we have. And during our analysis, because this has been going on for the past 4 months, we have had reach out where they've realized that they can also come up with new ideas on what standards they also believe needs to be done. We have had a situation where, especially for those committees where we did not have a lot of membership, we have had people coming up to say, I'm interested in the development of standard in this area. Can I also be party to what you are doing? Thank you.
Julius Mejwek, Insurance Consumers Body in Kenya. And I think what I'm going to ask cuts across in terms of, we are really looking for ways and means of how we can benchmark with any other country that have insurance consumers body. It is something that we have really looked into and have tried to Google to find out if there is any other countries, mostly in Africa, that are doing the same. Do you have anything like that in Botswana?
I must admit, back home, really issues of consumer issues are really, we are really not that active on them, I must really admit. Right now, when you talk about, like I was saying, our consumer authority, it has been active for the past 5 years. And I would say issues that are most prevalent right now are issues of mergers and acquisitions and the like. But when it comes to issues of consumers, we are mainly seeing them through social media, where they are addressed by the public and the consumer watchdog, which I have just talked about. And when you talk about consumer representatives, we don't have a lot of them that much. So that is why I was saying, from our case, we talked with like other countries whom we believe are better placed than us, like Uganda. Then we are saying from them, we are able to see what they are doing, and then we can copy from them.
Thanks for an excellent presentation. I'm Anupam Misra, Joint Secretary from Department of Consumer Affairs, Government of India. This is not a question, this is just a comment how we have been handling here in India the issues related to consumer, and what was emphasized in the earlier presentation, every voice is heard. So what we have a national consumer helpline where any consumer, if he has any grievances, he can lodge it onto the national consumer helpline. That is a toll-free number available in most of the Indian regional languages, 17 languages that we have this here. Then we use artificial intelligence and all the technology to analyze the complaints that we get on the National Consumer Helpline and try to get a pattern. If any proactive interventions are required in the market, that we do with the help of data analysis of the complaints that we get. That's one. Second, what we have we have around more than 200 voluntary consumer organizations that are actually operating here in India. Whatever policy making we have at each level, the VCOs, these voluntary consumer organizations, they are a part of it, they are a part of the committee members, they give their views and that is considered, taken note of. Besides this, what we have at a BIS, they have very good consumer clubs that is basically they engage with the students right from the beginning, around 10,000 of them they have I think across India. So basically the children at the very, very early stage itself are inculcated the habit of how to basically appreciate the standards and their suggestions are taken. So that was just a point I thought let me just share with the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your experiences.
Thank you, Abigail. Now I would like to invite John Kiaze from Uganda.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
You push this one, you advance forward. Okay. Push this one, goes back.
Okay.
The big one is the one.
Morning. How are you? Right. My name is John Chaze, or you can call me Kiaze, like some do it, but that's my name. And I come from Uganda. I work with Uganda National Bureau of Standards, but also we have a National Mirror Committee or Technical Committee with that nomenclature. It's UNBS Technical Committee 409, and we just maintained the same name, Consumer Policy Committee. We just wanted it to be, just to be realigned, just like the ISO Policy Committee is. So basically, I'm going to share with you our successes, challenges, and also solutions when we were mentored, okay? And very briefly, that was the purpose. It was just basically to develop a kind of a work plan for the inclusion of consumers, okay, in the development of standards, specifically starting from the national level, but also we look at encouraging them to participate in other standards related activities like promotion and awareness. And the mentees, I was one of them, but inside there, there is my colleague, Mr. Chimera Henry. Then there was also someone, he's called Samuel Watasa. Mr. Henry Chimera is the vice chair of the National Mirror Committee. And then the other person who is not with us, who is a substantive chair, he's called Watasa Samuel. But then there was also another colleague, he's called Dan Malone. He comes from UCAN. All these are involved in consumer-related activities, okay? So we came up with the National Action Plan. But the way that action plan came up, there is a lady, she is called Carol, who mentored us. I don't know whether she's here, but she mentored us, and one of the key objectives was basically to come up with a national action plan as a country, okay? And it was for promoting consumer awareness as well as protection, because those are two things. While you create awareness, you need to ensure that consumers are protected as well. What are some of the successes? I'm going to amend a bit on the first bullet, because I said that there was a proactive engagement of both consumer protection bodies and CSOs to lobby government to finalize the consumer protection law. While I was editing, we did work on it was a competition law that was finalized. These are two laws that have been pending. My vice chair will attest to that. He will tell you they have pushed for that. It's not UNBS, but they have really pushed for that. These two laws, one of them was assented to last year. But the one for consumer protection is still an issue. He will give a brief on that. The other issue is that we involve them in key events. We have the world standards there. We involve them at country level. And then the other one is World Consumer Rights Day. This event we really rolled up this time we went to schools because there are issues that are related to digital and so on, things that affect students because they are consumers. So we got in touch with them. We were working with our colleagues from Consumer Education Trusts to ensure that we pass on the message, okay? How these can be very harmful and what is the role of standards, okay? The other issue is that we have continued to, create or talk about standards because one of the challenges we have, like in our country, is that in schools or in education up to university, you can never find any education related to standards. Even me, when I joined UNBS, it's when I started knowing about standards. So knowing about standards is one issue, but then the issues of standards as well as issues for consumer protection and so on and so forth. So these things affect you because you have to keep learning. Standards itself is a very big animal, as all of us are aware. Then you go to issues of consumer safety standards, protection, and so on and so forth. But we are doing that because we also encourage them to participate, like there is the ASO competition, and they come up with key subjects, and usually people win. I think we won, I don't remember, but those are some of the things we do as successes. Then the other issue, we considered realigning the work plan. That was a result of the mentorship program in line with ASO COCO, but not only that, in line with the ISO Consumer Policy Committee. What this means is that whatever we speak at national level should be realigned at regional as well as international. And we have, already have that work plan. A number of ISO COPOLCO standards have been adopted, like my colleague, and we already participating in regionalizing them throughout the African Continental Free Trade Area, but that is through the ASO. And then major activities like mentorship, what we are doing because this I've shared with my colleagues is that for the ASO COCO working groups, we have work plans, but inside there, we are encouraging that while we talk about awareness, promotion, we need to talk about mentorship as well, because if it is only something that we've had at ISO or at national level, how about at ASO? So it's already ongoing, and you'll examine and see some of those work plans, it's inside there. I was one of the proponents for that. So the other one, we have gone ahead to try to simplify standards information where we have developed them in key areas like food. In Uganda, like for instance, we are multilingual, so we are pushing them into national languages for people to understand. Okay? And then, yeah, I think that's it. What are the challenges? While we have some successes, of course, challenges are there. The first one, we've not yet had a consumer policy law or policy in place, but like I said, our counterparts from the other side, Henry Chimera and those in policy are pushing. These are things you need to push and push and push. Policies are, like you know, they are not something easy. But already we have a competition act. Earlier on, someone talked about resources. Resources are very critical to have, like, rolling out this work plan to, to achieve what we want. But resources are a challenge. They're in personnel, but also when you go to some other issues like funding and so on and so forth, to bring people on board, platforms, so on and so forth, even if you have Zoom and so on, data, there are things that are inside there, but they were touched on earlier. Then the other issue, platforms. We have a COPOLCO platform and others, but we need to, I think, expand these platforms, probably with the consumer bodies. We need to do that. As NSBs, we cannot do everything. We need to have more platforms for people to know. Okay? So what are some of the suggestions or proposals to the program? We need resources. For us, a policy for consumer protection is very important. We're pushing. And then we need enhanced capacity build programs that has been talked about. But also, we need to, engage more with RRSOs like ASO, in our case, so that this is well replicated, well realigned. Okay? We need so much. Okay. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, that is our presentation. Thank you very much.
Questions from the floor?
Thank you, John. I think we will keep the questions to the end of the session after we hear from Loveness from Zimbabwe. Yes.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Loveness Mashaure from Standards Association of Zimbabwe. As was said earlier, Zimbabwe benefited from the mentorship program, but unfortunately, we didn't have anyone from the national standards body in the mentorship program. Probably it's because we were the ones who were running around with the hosting of the COPOLCO that year. So I managed to gather the feedback that I got from some of the people who benefited from the mentorship program, and I'm going to present that on their behalf, as well as add other things that we think will be helpful going forward. So as Zimbabwe, we also have a national MIRA committee, and we also decided to call it COPOLCO. It has been active, and when we met in 2019, it was active, but because of events that took place, there were some changes, COVID came, and quite a number of issues were affected. As we speak, we are in the process of reconvening it or beefing it up, because quite a number of people who were present then have since moved places. Okay. All right. So from the assignment that we were given, we're supposed to give some feedback on the development of the national work plan that what happened. So for Zimbabwe, consultations were done with SARS and other stakeholders on consumer standards, and SARS then provided a list of existing standards, including the guides developed under COPOLCO that were to be used by the group. It was a group of 4 people who benefited in the mentorship program. So that information was given to them. We had 4 males. We didn't have any female participating in the mentorship program. So that information was given to them. So the meetings were done, and they came up with a work plan. But they had challenges, as I indicated. That was 2019, 2020 came, and that was the COVID era, and much couldn't be done in that period. And also, they indicated that there were financial resources issues. They had challenges with financial resources. So otherwise, if they had enough finances, they could have done much in that area. So with regards to the work plan they came up with, I'm told they had, their mentor was Antonio, and he helped that team to define the standard priority areas which were needed so that they would concentrate on. The areas that they identified were on the safe products handling, safe financial transactions, safe communication, information handling and technology, safe food supply chains. Then they planned on carrying out consultations, and this was done with the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe so that they would be helped to identify the priority lists of standards. They also did consultation with the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, which is the custodian of our national standardization strategy, so that they'll come up with the priority lists for the standards work program. They also intended to meet the NGOs. I'm not sure if that was then done for possible funding, so that the training sessions and consultative workshops could be done. Another area they identified was to draft a questionnaire so as to review the process of awareness and implementation of the existing standards in the country as per the list that had been provided by SARS. There was also need to develop further standards. They needed to come up with further standards, areas that needed standards, and also the need to get details from that team on their priority listings according to the stakeholders or their areas of expertise that they were working with, as well as then compilation of the actions as required by the COPOLCO mentorship program, because there were deadlines that were given there. So the contribution from Antonio, they had regular online sections with him, but it seemed as if they didn't really have, the regular online sessions didn't really materialize, because only a few sessions were done. They started from the 25th of November, 2022, but the attendance was erratic. In one of the meetings, one was able to attend and the other 3 could not attend. So nothing much, as per the challenges, nothing much was done as participants could not join the virtual meetings. As I was trying to check with them the challenges as to why they failed to join the virtual meetings, they were saying there were issues with connectivity. It's not very easy to, if you're in different locations, to be able to connect to internet. So they failed to participate in the virtual sessions. And another reason was that 2 of them are now retired. They are no longer active. 2019, they were still in the workplace. Now they are retired, and they cannot continue with this assignment as was required from the mentorship program. So the lessons learned from this was that some form of regular feedback should have been sent to the National Standards Body so that we know the progress, as well as us being able to follow up on what was happening. Because from 2019 to date, we didn't know what was happening, only to know about the feedback that was needed when we had to prepare to come for this COPOLCO meeting. So that we found that as a very big challenge because there was no link with the National Standards Body. I don't know if Antonio is here and what his feedback would be also concerning how they were meeting. The outcomes and impact of the COPOLCO mentorship, the development of standards, we still see that consumer representation still needs to be more engaged. I'm very glad to listen to Julia and her presentation. I'm sure we'll learn some things on how to engage consumers, though we would need to tailor-make it to suit our own scenarios because we are operating from different angles and what might be working from your area might not be workable in our area. So there is need for tailor-making on how best we can engage these consumers. Then the adoption of standards. Currently, we do not really have a challenge in the adoption of standards. But what I can say is our challenge is proper input into the standards development process is still lacking because it seems as if the consumers won't be there throughout the whole process. When it comes to the adoption, yes, we can just adopt, but we need their input as the standards are being developed. So the lessons learned there is that the program was good and it's still very good, but it needs a lot of monitoring and evaluation as beneficiaries end up losing track. Because when I called one of them, they were no longer sure of what I was talking about. Because when I then told them, you benefited from the COPOLCO training that was done in 2019, that's when they were saying, oh, in Harare, yes, I remember. So they had already forgotten about it. So we need continuous monitoring and evaluation to see to it that work is happening. There are a lot of things that happen, and the time frame is now a long period ever since that was done, and they were not being followed up. So the post-workshop assignment, the development of our national work plan, I think I've already talked to that some consultative meetings were done with the advice of the mentor, and the areas to be prioritized were already identified. But what then lagged was the follow-through to see how these things were working out. The work plan was already in place, but it really didn't continue. But I'm sure with where we are, it can still be picked from where they left, even those who can no longer participate, with the new people who are there, or even totally different people can also be educated on what needs to be done, and we pick it from there. So I already mentioned that the work was initiated but not completed, because from their work plan they had indicated it's a 5-year program, but it's not yet completed. And the NSB needs to be in the loop of what is happening so that things work very well. I'm sure it was a blunder probably on our part that the mentorship was given to the consumers without the NSB participating. So that still can be corrected. Then on the issue of some other issues that I see that can also help us in this, I'm sure you are aware that we have quite a number of youth coming up. For those who are aware of the ISO TC 207, there's that young leadership group where they are working with the youths that are also coming on board into the mentorship program.